Well, here I am. I'm stood outside the council office tonight. I was invited by the Deputy Mayor to come down and record the council meeting tonight. Clark, in his wisdom, has tried stopping this. He's gone into a private session, stopping anybody else from going in. There's more to follow, so we'll see what happens in a minute. Up to now, I don't know. We'll let you know more in a minute or two.
If you said to somebody, we've got a 3,000 bill here, we go for 5,000,
well, this is a closed session still. The councillors have gone in. Apparently Clark has decided to close the session so nobody can go in and hear what's said. Councillors knew nothing about it till they got here, and we're still waiting on the outcome of it. It's nothing being said to the public that they couldn't come in. So again, once again, Skegness Town Clerk has decided to do something without letting the council know. So we'll find out what's happening later.
Okay, members of the public can stay until we get into the private session section of this paper. Okay, of the agenda. There is one private section that we have got to do in private. Okay, so you can stay in until item 5. All right. Okay, item 1. Have you all read the minutes of the last meeting?
That would be during this. Five. So item 5 will become 5 and 5A, and 5A will be private session. Excuse me, I haven't got that.
Councillor,
I was just going to propose the minutes for after reflection.
seconded. All in favour, please show.
Experience in arranging events for this council, and enthusiasm and ambition in terms of the size of the event and insufficient time has created quite a few problems. Some of the documents that I've now got in front of me didn't arrive until 3:15 today, so I've not been able to do more than have a superficial skim read of them, and so I've been unable to adequately include that in my report. So certainly up until lunchtime, and I don't think from my superficial skim read that things have changed. The documentation is not yet to a standard for an event of this size. So that's a regulated event. Where we are, I would expect it to be perhaps a month or so ago. The current event risk assessment is adequate. Minor changes and fine tuning to the event management plan to be expected in the last few weeks and days. It's usually about to happen. However, we're 11 working days away, and quite significant changes to the event are still taking place. So, for example, we've moved from 2 fairground rides to 6 fairground rides. We've got a TV screen that was going to be included in the stage mounting, now having a separate mounting. And to be frank, this was a third party organising this event, for which, as an office, we oversee the paperwork. I would have already said, no, you're not holding an event, because it's not to the standard where we can yet be sure that it's going to be run safely. The council, in terms of considering this matter, has a difficult decision, because it faces the certainty of reputational damage if it was to cancel the event, weighed against the much smaller possibility of a serious incident, but which could bring catastrophic consequences if it does occur. I mean, many events happen up and down the country. Some of them are not very well planned, and nothing happens. And that, they go off all the time. But there are events that happen where there is a serious accident. When that happens, it can have bad effects. I think the areas that the council needs to consider, firstly, is that there isn't yet a comprehensive written event plan in place. It's still changing. So we haven't got to the final position. And we're probably at least some days, if not a week, away from that being in place. We need to have that in order for our insurers to be effective. They require a full event management plan. And also, LSAG, the Safety Advisory Group, will want to see it. Now, we had said that would be sent off tomorrow. That isn't clearly, as it is at the moment, it's not in a position to be sent off. And they only have a certain amount of time in which to review the event management plan, because it's the bringing together of lots of different bodies. They have to get together, look at it, make an assessment, and then have time to feed back in order for the working group to make adjustments that might have been recommended. My main concern is not so much about LSAG, but is having that safe plan in order to be insured and to reduce the likelihood of accidents or incidents happening. If something happens and there's an inadequate event plan, then the council and potentially individual councillors can become liable. Councillors are insured against accidental errors or omissions, so like an error of judgment on the day. But if preparation is inadequate, claims against insurance could be rejected. So for serious injuries or death, prosecution could follow if council has not taken all reasonable steps to prevent or minimise foreseeable incidents. I don't think we've yet done that to an adequate standard. It's important that those overseeing the event are the ones producing that detail for the event plan, so that they fully understand and have a complete knowledge of what's required, so they can implement it on the day. it's very easy. You could go away and get an event plan professionally read and then just hand it to the event, the people who are dealing with it on the day. But that's not going to be any use to them if they don't understand what they're actually reading, or it's not embedded in them because they haven't gone through the thought process. I mean, we've made staff made some suggestions, and we've been doing that. We have been having regular meetings with the working group and feeding back, and there has been an iterative process. And certainly in the very weak areas. But if those overseeing the event don't actually understand what's needed, it won't take place on the day, regardless of what's written down. So some of the statements on documents provided don't make much sense, and there's not been time yet to clarify those within meetings. As I say, 3:15 this afternoon, pile of documents. There needs to be time to go through those. The second consideration that Council had is that the plan must be followed on the day and proper records kept. So that might be accidents, weather events, and incidents that haven't been expected within the plan. And this should include a written record of any action taken and by who. So I've pressed this home to the group's representatives that they need to take notes and log things. So if there's an accident, an incident, that needs to be logged. If there's a weather event, that needs to be logged. Things like wind speeds need to be taken regularly through the day, and those need to be logged. If something goes wrong, the group need to be able to act quickly. And they need to record any adaptations and reasoning for those adaptations as they go. Because again, if something goes wrong, insurers want to know, well, why did you do this? They also need to train or at least brief the other marshals, depending on what role they've got, about what's required from them and what to do in an emergency. There is a safety briefing, but some areas need more detail, and maybe even a risk assessment sitting behind it to tease out that detail. Those overseeing the event have got specific responsibility, but council as the landowner has a responsibility to make sure the events are properly organised. Council's got very little experience of running larger events. A few of the members of the working group have experience as volunteers in various capacities, but not really as a responsible organiser of an event of this size. I think the third consideration is, does the group of people running it recognise their own limitations in relation to their knowledge and experience of organising and running an event? A cautious person is much more likely to get things right than an overly confident one. So when I hear phrases such as, "I won't let anything unsafe happen," as an alternative to a proper plan, my confidence level drops. I'm sure that the working group are putting in a heck of a lot of effort, but this event is now heading to be a similar size as the Sow Festival in Tower Gardens. Magnavita have a professional event organiser and an expert at managing event risks to oversee their events. On the day of the Sow Festival, Magnavita has professional security, site managers, stage managers, naming the event plan, not just volunteers. I think the working group has given themselves a lot of scope to shape things without bringing the decisions back to council. And perhaps the councils and the group have allowed themselves to be, pushed along a little bit in terms of what that event is going to look like. And that might be external influence or within the group. And that's led to a creep from what started as a dog show and a dove release to an event with a stage, fairground rides, giant TV, generators, gazebos, stalls, etc., etc. The Deputy Town Clerk and I can measure within our somewhat limited knowledge of the detail of the event whether the event plan looks sensible and realistic. With sufficient time, we can type it out, make it look presentable and professional. It is, however, the responsibility of the named event organiser and the others of the working group supporting him to ensure the plans right for the event they organise and oversee on the day. As you know, in this chamber, I've been saying for weeks, if not months, that the level of planning needed is quite high. But everything seems now very last minute and a rush to get it ready in time. The bottom line is that the council needs to decide whether it has enough confidence in the working group to deliver a safe event, get the documentation done, and deliver a safe event in the next 2 weeks. So that's the amount of time that's left. I mean, the documentation needs to be, before that, we must submit it to the Safety Advisory Group, otherwise we're in an immediate breach of our insurance anyway. As an officer, I can only advise on documents and evidence I have received and not on promises or verbal assurances that everything will be okay. Moving on to the finances, I'm less concerned about the finances now than I was previously. Grants and donations of £4,480 have been received, with £1,600 of that being today. The current amount to be funded by the council is £6,033, leaving £1,533 to be found. The group believe this amount will be covered, but it is within the £5,000 that the council agreed to underwrite in any case, so it's within that tolerance. So it is possible that more funds may arrive in the next few days. It is possible that additional expenditure may be required as well. There is a fire risk assessment that needs to be done professionally, and depending on the outcome of tonight, that will, I can order that tomorrow. But there may be outcomes from that haven't been captured. So if the fire risk assessment comes back and says you need X, Y, and Z, and those have costs to them, then those costs will need to be added into the pot. So decisions. So should council decide to proceed with the event, then there's still a lot of work to do to get the paperwork in order and for the event leaders to follow and understand what they need to do on the day. Officer time to assist is now very thin as we must complete our year-end tasks, including final accounts and preparation for the council, all of which has fallen now several days behind. And we're also working on the town's fund in order to start the consultation process on the 10th of May. If council decide to cancel the event, then we will need to be ready with a response as to why this is the case. And obviously, as I mentioned earlier, that there is reputational damage that would have to be managed. So I think there are lessons that can be learned for the future. And I think that is, council don't decide to run events unless they're funded and resourced in advance, and that there's sufficient time. So I would say 6 months leading for a small and medium event, and probably 12 months for a large event. I mean, I think, although it may seem I'm criticising the working group in some way, they've had a very, very limited amount of time to do what magnitudes would take a year to do. And they've got professional people. So I'm trying to balance what I'm saying in terms of, there has been a lot of work to do, there's been a lot of effort to get that done, but there's still work to be done in order for this to be a safe event. I mean, additionally, in terms of lessons to the future, council could consider paying for a professional organiser, especially for larger events, because at least it has some contractual protection there. In future, I would say if it sets up a event working group that insists on regular full reports from the working groups, including minutes and meetings, and I think council should set clear expectations and ground rules. So that is, where the working groups can't make decisions and commit expenditure, that should come back to council or a committee or to officers who have delegated authority. And I think the council should also set out key decision points where council agree to move an event onto the next stage, so that there's perhaps a feasibility, and then it goes through stages where council are in control of what's happening, and don't get presented, this is what the event looks like, and there's only 2 weeks to go until it's happening. Because that doesn't really give council sufficient control for decision making. So I will leave my report at that point there.
Councillor Finlay.
Yeah, thank you for that. Listening to it, I think we're a bit too deep, because all these people that are being hired or whatever they are, they're coming along, they do events all over the country all year round. They've got their own risk assessments alongside their own insurance, which is good enough wherever they go. Otherwise they'd amend it it sounds like they're going to have to amend it to suit us, which I find bizarre if they use the same risk assessments with the same insurance. As regards the event as a whole, I think the Tower Gardens, we have people in it all day every day. So everything related to the Tower Gardens is a standard day for anybody coming into it. If they're in the vicinity of these individuals that are coming along, whether they've been hired or voluntary, with their own risk assessments, method statements, whatever they've got with their own insurance that they use all over the country, then those people are the liable people for whatever it is. That's the whole point of them going, that's the risk assessment we use all over the country, every event we do all year round. That's the insurance that covers us, it's accepted all over the country all year round. We put the two together and we go all over the country all year round, but we're coming to the Tower Gardens, if anybody gets hurt, anything we do related to us, in any shape or form, we are covered all over the country all year round. All of a sudden coming to the Tower Gardens saying this, and listening to what you said, you're questioning what's in their risk assessments or insurance. That's what it sounds like.
I'm not questioning them.
So they're not happen. Right, so if on the day they don't turn up with those documents, because the only one way into this place is through the gates. So if on the day they haven't got those documents on the day, they don't put the gates, as simple as that.
But this is now a regulated event, and that isn't sufficient to say that. it's on the day, that isn't sufficient for either the safety advisory group, who requires to see it. I mean, in the future, we're going to have to produce these. If we do an event in the future, we're going to be looking at providing draft documents 3 months in advance, and the final documents, a couple of weeks before the event takes place. There isn't sufficient risk assessments in here. We've got some of them are not from the professional people, but from the smaller contributors. And to be honest, they're not worth the paper they're written on. They're in the same position. They don't really know. They've been asked to do something they don't really know. Those sort of smaller ones are not necessarily experienced in doing it. But the bigger ones, those are the ones we haven't got on the stage. The stage is a big issue in terms of putting it up and then what happens on the stage during the day. So it's not only those that are performing on the stage who can look at their footwear and the costumes that they're wearing and things like that, but it's about where are the cables, where are the microphones, where are are there trip hazards, how do they get on and off the stage, is there an evacuation plan for the stage if something goes wrong. All of those things, those are the things that I haven't seen. And that's what I need to see, and that's why I've said I can only report on what I've seen. Now, I'm getting assurances that those things will be there, but I haven't seen them. And normally, for an event, we would be saying we want this, and this, and they're produced.
So what's the issue with going to OSAG with what we've got? Surely OSAG will pick it up. OSAG will tell you what's wrong with it. So if it's flawed, to the extent you're saying, allow OSAG to go, right, we'll give you 7 days to sort this out. Because that's how OSAG work. They don't just say laying up in the event. What they do is they look at that document and they say to you, I know what you're saying, you want to cover everything. But OSAG will accept it. They're going to advise us as a council. They will go, right, for your sake, you need to do this, this, and this, and this. They might not go into tiny little microscopic picking detail, but what they will do is tell you what they feel.
We've had conversations with representatives from the
and
they said you need to have this.
I accept that, but a conversation is not a conversation. The only way you're going to get OSAG to make sure it's covered is go to OSAG, they will look at that document, and each one of those, whatever they're related to, whether it's fire, the police, the first aid, whatever it is, they will find what's needed to go into that folder. So there shouldn't be a delay with OSAG. It's the documentation that they require for that to be a working event.
So there are whole sections of the event plan that aren't completed as yet.
But I don't see how, because 3 or 4 times in different meetings I've said, when we've asked questions and discussed it, I've said, made quite clear, we've still got enough time to complete the forms. And we've even been through the notification and the event management plan. And every time I've got the same answer, yeah, it should be okay, it should be okay. And now we haven't got anything filled in.
Well, those sections need information to come through. I mean, as I say, there may be some of that information in these documents that I received at 3:15 today. But looking at some of it, I wouldn't say that it's adequate to keep going. Some of it, I don't understand how it fits into the event plan. So there is definitely stuff that is missing. There's stuff that we haven't got yet, and I don't think the group have yet got.
Well, you had a meeting today with us, and only about 2 meetings this week, and I feel that whatever you wanted, we have given you, and you just keep moving the goalposts.
I'm not moving the goalposts.
I don't know, I'll throw a spanner in the works.
I go back to
I think we'll have a speaker to ask Martin on who can actually answer the question and see what it's actually put in there to see where we are at this stage. It's up to you, Martin.
Martin, can you tell me, are there documents?
I was going to suggest that all councillors, they knew Mr Mayor, move to suspend study orders to let members of the committee speak. Same outcomes you're asking for, and the procedure to go around.
Is that correct?
there's a heat from the chair.
Yeah.
Suggest Mr. Said standing orders, we're going to take a vote on that, then members of the working group who are outside of this council have the opportunity to speak. But what I'm saying, we can do that, Mr. Mayor, let's try and keep it calm.
Yeah.
Right. We're all quite passionate about this, and that's quite easy for temperature and afraid necessary. We all want the best for the town. That's all I'm saying.
Right, Councillor Anderson.
Thank you. I thought from when I last heard, I admit, was a few council meetings ago, and I proposed that the deputy mayor get involved in the working groups, is that Margarita would be working alongside the working group as you helping the event go ahead, because they have the specialisms, what the town clerk said, whether it comes so festival, etc. Have they not been involved as such? My other concern is, if the town clerk is saying what he is saying, not only are we the landowners of this, which we will be responsible if an accident or death occurs by electrocution, fire, heart attack, strokes or whatever. I'm putting my family at risk without the proper information. I'm putting my house at risk. We all are, and I don't feel comfortable with that. I seriously do not feel comfortable with that. And the third issue is, we had a horrible accident by one fairground. I didn't know there were 6 fairground rides coming in. Didn't know that at all. That's probably my fault for not being involved, because my wife has been ill. And it has concerned me because one of the fairground rides here failed. And there was hundreds of thousands of pounds in fines from a professional person who runs. And they were taken to court and had to pay hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds in compensation. And someone finally knocked on my door and asked me to pay that. Or asked members of my family to pay that. Can't do it.
Can I just clarify? The fairground runs, I understand, are to be small children's rides, fairground rides. But as of this afternoon, I have no details of which ones they are. And I don't believe the working group knew which ones they are. They will be removed this afternoon around where they were going to be located, or this morning. And as yet, I understand they're coming. I understand, that it is going to be provided. Clearly, the people who own them, as Councillor Finley said, have got expertise and professionalism, etc. in running those. But they haven't provided as yet the details of what rides they are, or the risk assessments, or the insurance certificates for it. And so we haven't got those, and as a result of that, the group haven't been able to assess in the event risk assessment what impact those rides can have on people walking around the site, children running from the playground, or any of those sorts of things. And those are that's the sort of risk assessment that needs to be done.
I'm just asking one more question. These rides are going to take money, aren't they?
No.
They're not, they're offering They're offering free services, because that brings another issue. If it was, they were taking money.
And they're in a small ride, like cooks and sauces for children.
I don't know, I've not seen it.
Well, you'll get all the information tomorrow with the risk assessments and the insurance. But by the time I check, after Easter, all changed. Everything's gone wrong with the We've had to do another one, 36 pages again. Because we're through the nitty-gritty of it. Okay, we've highlighted a lot of it, but we've got to deep into it and doing it. We're not going to jeopardise the council
Not
for an event. It's a special event.
I'm not suggesting that you are.
I understand it.
Not suggesting, you've done an awful lot of work, okay? An awful lot of work, which you've done before, okay? But there's questions about safeguarding, there's some issues about health and safety, trips, falls, fires, all sorts of things. And we have, I don't feel comfortable not knowing that 10 days ago would be the events.
Councillor Brooks.
I will say this, when we organised the lighting of the beacon on Foreshore, the district council gave us till the day before the event to get the final paperwork in place to make sure it would go ahead. They only gave us the decision that it would go ahead after they got that at 4 o'clock the day before. So you don't need to have it 2 weeks before. That's just one thing. I'm also looking for where the trapeze artists are on the highway, actually trampolines. I'm looking at this and it's a song and dance. It's a couple of dancers and a few singers. You've got 6 rides. I'm pretty sure the people that bring the rides will have their own business and they wouldn't do anything to jeopardise their business or anybody else's. But looking at this, we're doing 4 over and I just think that it's a big event, but it is a song and dance event. It's not high-rise, trapeze artists, white walkers, fire eaters, not even lighting the beacon. So, I'm astounded that we're looking at cancelling this event 2 weeks before. It's singers, it's dancers. You can tell them on the day that, well, actually, you can't go and sing now because your microphone's a bit dodgy and you've got too long wire. I can understand what people are saying, but we need to get rid of it. This is not a major disaster waiting to happen. You look at this, you go back to any parish council anywhere and they go, yeah, we'll put that on that field. Because this ain't, there's nothing dangerous here. You've got the stage, well, I'm pretty sure, I don't know who's doing the stage, but I'm pretty sure they will have, it will be professionally put up. You've got the fairground line, I'm pretty sure they will have their risk assessment. And the rest of it, you might get hit by a microphone if you're unlucky, but I just can't, I just don't know what's happening.
Can I come back to a couple of those bits, which is firstly, for the Queen's Jubilee, the government actually took away the restrictions and requirements in the week before, which is why it seems they were able to say that they didn't need paperwork. And also, it isn't a regulated event, which is under a licence, which this is. We've now got the premises licence. But with that licence, as any, as a licensee, you would know if they have an event at their premises, there are things that they have to do and assessment they have to take. And I'm not suggesting that those professional organisations who bring stuff along won't have their own risk assessments and insurances in place. I'm sure they absolutely will. I'm just saying, we haven't got them. We haven't got them as of today, and council last week said that they wanted to see all of the documentation and finances today. I haven't got them to give.
Going back, sorry, Councillor Kirk.
It's a couple of observations. If the town clerk was saying the event plan is up to scratch, and I'm happy to accept the event plan is up to scratch. If he's saying that there were limitations within the group, I think it's also fair to expect that to come from the town clerk and for us to acknowledge that. Because of course there are limitations in the group. The group here and the group set over there are not professional event organisers or health and safety professionals. etc., etc. Finances was always a big concern. That seems to be pretty much boxed off. And I'm taking board totally what Town Clerk was saying. Danny just said, I'm pretty sure they'll have this, I'm pretty sure they'll have this. I'm sure they will have it. The Town Clerk saying it hasn't seen it yet. I think the working group, and particularly those from outside bodies on this working group, have done a tremendous job. I think the council's let them down. I think another observation I would make to the Town Clerk isn't in the Town Clerk's report. If the council is setting a working group up to deliver an event, it tells the working group exactly what event they want to deliver, rather than allowing the working group to decide how big the event should be and what should be involved in it. So I think we've let the working group down a little bit. I say so, Mr. Mayor. What I'm hearing is this meeting is premature. The stuff isn't there. The stuff may well be with the group, or the group may well have it in hand. But I would find it very, very difficult to vote for this event or vote against this event tonight. This is a false cut-off that we put in last week. It's not written anywhere, not required anywhere, but we decided last week. I think I proposed it. I'm quite happy to put my hand up and say I was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. I proposed, rather than just a week's notice to do it on Wednesday, we should have a meeting on the following Tuesday. Rather than give the group and those outside bodies a short period of time and a longer period of time. So I think that is premature to make the decision. So I'm going to make a proposal tonight. I don't expect it to get seconded or voted on, but I'll make it anyway, to give this group the fullness of time that they deserve, to give this council time to fully deliberate and make a fully informed decision. I'm proposing the decision of whether or not we hold this event be deferred until next Tuesday, if that will allow time for
Wednesday would be the preferred day, because there is already a planning meeting.
Well, I'll take
And
all that.
also,
Sorry, I was handing out this really good advice. I'm proposing we defer it until the next Wednesday, because that would be the, if it ain't right now, it ain't happening. Because I'm unhappy with the thought that stuff might be on its way, or they might have it, and then not turn up. Because we would be making a commitment tonight, and that event goes on, it never ever turns up. And I would not with that. And I respect the Town Clerk professional judgment, but I also know how much everybody wants this event to happen. Because it will be fantastic. The work is put in, this list of events, doesn't mention the charity schools as well, that we're going to get some people, some promotion. I know that we've got fire brigade, and all sorts of things. This is just what's happening on the stage. So it's a huge event, so that's why I propose we give the working group and the ladies and gentlemen out there the best possible opportunity to provide the Town Clerk with everything he wants, so that we can have an event plan that he's happy with and we can be proud of. That's my proposal, Mr. Mayor, to say this goes on any longer.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Findlay.
Just for clarity, Councillor Anderson made a point about big fines losing your own general bar if anything was to happen at this event. And he made another point, it's a small event. Regardless, we have events on here that we don't even know about. We have double-decker buses riding around here. We have got where it's happening. Whoever organises that with silver buttons tumbling about, with vehicles, with young kids walking about. We as a council, you made it quite clear tonight, over and over again, we are responsible, we are the liable people. And I have lost track of how many events go on in there I haven't got a clue about. 30 motor cars, vintage motor cars, skidding around the grass. I haven't got a clue about it, I don't know about it, nobody told me I'm liable for that. And so the paperwork might have been done. We're talking about something that looks massive, might be massive, but we've been down the route tonight, the insurances and the risk assessments and stuff like that. But then we go on to further. With further, we're not councillors. So how does that liability, like Anderson, Mark Anderson partly alluded to, I think that's the right word, is that if we're not councillors, are we still liable as a council? are we still responsible? Are we still going to lose our own, even though per the states that we are not councillors? The town clerk's advisors, we are not councillors. So how does that work? On the day of the event, we've said yes, go ahead with it. There's a responsible party for it, we've got insurance for it.
You're legally responsible until the 9th of May. So whatever decisions are made, you're legally responsible until the 9th of May. In terms of the other events that occur, we've got a process in place where we look at all of the forms. Council is protected because it's employed people to undertake that work, to look at the forms and make the decision. We will reject if it isn't. So events will be stopped if they're not properly documented and have the proper risk assessments and that. Quite often we can get into quite heated discussions with the event organisers, but they do produce it. And we're normally at that point, maybe a month or two before the event's actually taking place, not weeks. In this case, it clearly, it's an important event to the council that the council instigated, it's the council's event. And as Councillor Kirk said, everybody wants it to happen. My duty as an officer is to ensure, as far as it's possible, that it is a safe event and advise you on that. And last week I said, I don't think this is a decision that I can make because of the implications that it had if it was cancelled. As I said in my report, if it was a third party organising the event, we wouldn't have got this far. We wouldn't be in this discussion because we wouldn't have had the documentation weeks ago. But it's a council event, recognising that it's late starting on, that the coronation, the date of the coronation wasn't known until relatively recently, and so there hasn't been as much time to actually arrange the event, and there wasn't the resources up front. There wasn't, council didn't put a budget in place and say go organise an event. It had to rely on volunteers supporting councillors to do that, and also generous contributions from these local businesses to make it happen. So quite clearly, council wants it to go ahead, and so that decision about whether it's a safe event and that has to ultimately rest with council. I can only give you the information that I have as of today, and that's what I've done.
Councillor Barry.
Right, I agree with what the town clerk said, but it was only yesterday that we obtained the premises licence. And this wouldn't gone off, this event wouldn't gone off if we hadn't got a premises licence. And in fact, the event committee, the act of donation, paid for it. So, I can't understand it. We're trying to do our best by working something out. We just what happened? Because you're not giving us any money.
Well, it's not me giving you money, it's council. It's council. No, exactly. Council didn't set a budget for this event. There was no budget for this event. So that has been a difficulty. Without a budget, it is very difficult to organise events, as I'm sure the working group has found out. So, as I said at the beginning, I think the working group has been working very hard, and it's I think hats off for securing those donations and etc. to enable what's going ahead to go ahead. The event, when the size increased and it became an event which had performances, and it was above the number of the expected attendees was above a certain size, that meant that we had to obtain a premises licence in order for the event to go ahead, which is why we reported to the council. As soon as that was done, we put in place the motion, and we have now got that premises licence. There is also other costs which are to do with PRS. So, you know, there is a cost of £455 for the event for PRS. That's a one-off. It's a performance licence, so music and dance, stage, etc. And again, so those weren't budgeted, so those are actually included in those overall costs.
Councillor Dennis, people have got the misunderstanding that there are councillors in this room that don't want this event to happen. That's not correct. We're absolutely 200% behind this event taking place. My fear is, similar to Councillor Anderson's, that if it's not all bells and braces, and I do a lot of work for the councils, for county and for East Lindsey, and it's done in a certain way, everything has to be in its place, and everything, yes, you can budget, start people, do all the stuff you want to do, till something goes wrong. And I've been in positions in my works, because it's a very dangerous business I'm in. I'm in a wonderful yard, something happens, all of a sudden the doors are shut and it's a crime scene. Now, when those crime scenes take place, it's happened to me twice. We've got a crime scene, we've got one guy made back to hospital. Okay? The life is on life. It is me, I'm the governor, the book stops here. And when that book stops there, if you've got all of this licensing, health and safety, risk assessments, method statements in place, if your people are not thoroughly trained and being fully coordinated in the job they're doing, you're up there, because then, if you're not, your insurance company will not cover you. They will walk away from it. If you've got everything into place, surely there must have been instances in the council, surely, I don't know, I defer to the town clerk, where things must have happened in the town clerks. You know, something must, I mean, surely, I've been council here for 12 years, something's not happening in the town clerk. But, yeah, it could happen. The thing is, if these things are in place, that's fine. If it, yes, there's a million to one chance it could happen. But if it happens, and if the town clerk's not signed it off, and if the risk assessments and method statements are not working, and if they're not corrected, then we will not be insured. Never mind how the councils have got insurance, and the council's got this and the council's got that. But if something goes wrong and we're negligent, that insurance will not cover us. And then they will come to us as individual councils. It's called corporate responsibility. And at the end of the day, it's fine if you're penniless, because they'll not come to you. But if you've got money, or if you've got a house, they will come to you. They will come to you. Now that's my concern. If everything's in place, I have no issue about this event going forward. Absolutely 110%. But that's my problem. Is I have responsibility to my family and to your families, to what you have, and that's my bone of contention. If it's right, that's great. But if it's not right, something goes wrong, that's my issue. That's my bottom line big problem.
I agree with you.
Big problem.
I agree with you.
You know, and as long as you people realise that, because when this does come to vote, I will ask for a public vote. And if I'm comfortable with it, that I'm safe, my family is safe, I will vote for it. Because I'm led to believe that if I'm in a public vote, if I vote against the decision you're making, then I actually step out of the liability. And that's my own fear. If it works, if it's in place, that's great. If it's not, I will not be voting for it. It's simple as that.
Mr. Mayor, I asked a question about
George Saxon wants to speak.
Yeah, just a question to everything else, actually.
There's quite a lot of these events running around Lincolnshire, around here, around the town, and various places. Are they obligated to do the same thing we're doing? Cutting this crop and all sorts, but they're all having big parties, street parties, whatever. Are they responsible for the same functioning as no crop shops at it? Just a whole question there.
I mean, it depends on exactly on the event and how it's organised, but there will be some, requirements for whoever's organising it to make sure it's safe. I mean, that is a basic thing. Anybody who organises anything has to make sure what they're doing is safe. That's if you go and work for somebody, you have to make sure what you're doing is safe. You should have your method of work, risk assessments, all of those, in order for your insurance to cover you if there's something goes wrong. This is a bigger event, and it's a regulated event, so there are additional requirements. Some of those things, if it's a street party, then it's clearly, lots of street parties are covered by slightly different, rules and regulations, so there won't be the same requirements as what there are here when we're putting on an event with fairground nights and etc.
Councillor Bell.
Thank you. I'm going to second Steve Kerr's proposal that we delay any vote until next week. Otherwise, you will be going round and round circles all night. To be honest with you, I feel demoralised tonight. I've been bored of the crop over the last 6-7 weeks, especially the chaps out there and these two sitting here. I'm demoralised, really am. There's been a few times I thought I can't do this anymore, but we've resolved it. And then something else comes up and we resolve it. Now, I quite agree with Steve, with Councillor Kerr. Let's give us until next Wednesday to get everything on paper, and if it ain't on paper, then we make a vote. And I would suggest that you vote now, because to be honest with that, I need to go and take a medication, and I don't want to be sitting here for 2 years. What's wrong with that?
Right, I've got Councillor Dennis.
No. Councillor Bird, you do see my point of view.
Yes, I do. Yes, I agree with you.
You might feel demoralised, I'm feeling would. There's a difference. I can't sit there on that day at that event. And it's a massive sunshining day, and you're getting empty balloons that the thousands of people come in, or it gives down the rain and it's just the opposite.
So we're not going about that, but everything's in place to shut it down. If the qualified group isn't there next week, it won't happen, simple as that. We've been saying this for weeks. And all we're doing is just bickering from one side to the other. Let's go to the vote and give us 7 days to get it sorted next week.
Councillor Anderson.
I did ask the question, but I take exception to previous town mayor saying we're bickering. I don't think we're bickering. I'm really concerned if there's an incident occurs.
Well, give us 7 days to sort it.
I'm not bickering. I'm concerned and worried for my family. It's not a bickering. That is not a bicker.
I'll take exception to you saying if anybody has a heart attack on the street, it's the event's team's fault. No, it's not.
No, it's not.
But that's what we said.
What I said is I don't know.
I'll watch the video later, that's all.
What I'm saying is that have you got medical provision there?
Yes!
Well, I don't know.
I'll bring the minutes.
We're getting negative all the time.
I'm not being negative.
No, we haven't got no information. Get the information of what we've done. We've got everything else.
We haven't had that information.
You've submitted.
Right, let's stop there. Councillor Brooks.
I agree with everything. If paperwork isn't there, I'm quite happy to go with it in a week. Just a quick question. When I was the mayor, there was an event like this, it was for the carnival. Now, I know it was 2017, so I'm not saying we were in charge of the town garden. However, it was pretty similar to this.
Yeah.
Have they not got an event plan that is that?
That's why they pulled out. That's why they stopped doing it.
Because they didn't have an event plan.
Yes.
So we're going to have to do it.
Nothing, yeah.
I was just asking.
Can I come back on that? There are two issues. Yes, I mean, ultimately, you could copy a plan, but
I was just thinking of getting a date and then adjusting it to what we've got, so that you're not having to go through all that work
it's
again.
important that those that are running the event on the day have gone through that thought process, so they know they're not just reading it on paper that, oh, they have that's what it is, but they've actually gone through the process of thinking, oh yeah, right, if a child runs from the playground out and straight into the where the players are, there's a risk there. And we talked about that earlier today. And, you know, one of the mitigations for that would be when you put marshals on the corner of where those are, you might have some fencing, those sorts of things. Needs to be written down then, but those people, then, you know, when going through that process, have got that in their mind and they're going to be aware of it on the day. If you just copy somebody else's plan and don't know, you have to thought that through and
What I mean is not as you're going to use that, you're going to read that, because these are professionals. You read that and you go, oh, okay, we better look at that.
yeah.
These guys have worked this out, so.
I know that.
Right, thank you. Councillor Billy Brooks.
Yeah, first of all, we've got all these people here tonight. I think just go to a vote about letting them speak and maybe explain some of the issues we're having would be good. But the second thing I've just got an issue with is just the way it's put across, and I hope that during the working group it hasn't been put across this way, but the town clerk just then says they need to go through the thought process and, you know, when making the event plan. To me, it sounds like when you take the homework to the teacher and they say, can I have another look at that? But they don't actually tell you exactly what needs doing. And that just sat a bit uncomfortably with me. Maybe I misunderstood that. That's how it certainly came across to me. And I can't obviously speak for the other people, but certainly I think we need to let the people that have the answers to the questions speak. They're here. There's no good us going around that. Worried about families and that. The answers are all here. So why don't we let them talk?
Councillor Dennis.
Yeah, when I was part of the bid process, the part of the bid really to do this type of stuff. And I remember going to a big event, and we did all the other stuff for it. Properly. And we gave him all the stuff. And he went, he got his piece of paper, and he danced down the road. After he got his paper, but he saw it, he was away. The other got round down the bottom right, spent 10 minutes in that, but all he got was a bit of paper. He got the talk, but he hadn't got the book. And there were issues with that. There were issues with that, but that, and the people who organised it had to take the backs of that. And then this is what you need to be. Following people asking questions, is there any questions to ask? Or are they going to need to come back to me? There's no point doing that. So I'd like to carry on with the motion. I don't think, I mean, it's very good to get a second rule to vote, but I can't see the point of down speaking to us now, when everything's got into place, we need, they're only going to come back in 5 time, and so let's do it, as we say, next Wednesday. And then
Right, I'm going to have one more and then I'm going to go to the vote. Okay.
I think it's clear that the council has had a chance to have a good chat about this now. So I'll propose we remove standing orders if that's what other people would like to do. Invite us to speak.
Yeah, can I just respond to the comment that Councillor Brooks made? I mean, I think in the working group discussions where officers have been involved and having discussions, there have been suggestions made, there have been, comments made, and we're not just throwing it back saying that isn't good enough in that sense. We are making some suggestions or identifying, and perhaps asking questions, well, what would happen if, if in order to prompt that discussion, And certainly there's been discussions today, yesterday, there's been discussions over the last few weeks on and off as information's come through. So I don't think that is the case. I think it is, there has been meaningful discussion, and I hope that those discussions have prompted, a refinement of the plan. But as I say, as we are today, and we've discussed it earlier, not everything isn't there as council wanted.
Please speak up, please.
What has happened to Magna Vita? The last meeting I attended, and I voted for the event to carry on because I wanted it to happen. Because they pulled out.
But they gave us the permission to use their stage. They've even looked at us directly, but they've actually got the rigours.
Can I just answer Councillor Anderson's question a bit more directly? The Magna Vita have a role on the safety advisory group.
Yes.
It would be inappropriate for them to be advising at the lowest level before they've had an opportunity to actually see what the proposals are. So it could be a very difficult position to be both the person who's designing it and the person who's reviewing it. So that's why
I understand what they have, because they have a professional person, James Breathall has, but yet they walked away. I don't understand that. That's not part of it.
Well, in actual fact, they haven't got the staff. That's what they were telling me. They haven't got the staff anymore, they've had to let them go. Because of the constraints of the situation in our audience. Right.
Can we just have clarity of the proposal, please?
The proposal is that we defer the vote until next Wednesday, when we get all the information back in and get it looked at. It was proposed by Steve Kirk and seconded by Trevor Byrne. In favour, please show.
Did we have a proposal from Councillor Dan Kirk saying that he would like to suspend standing orders so that we could hear what happened? Does anybody give me a second? Do we have a second? I'll say that, Mr. Lamb.
You're seconding.
They can tell us how close they are to the paperwork being delivered and that sort of thing, rather than no.
Okay, it's proposed we allow the members to speak and seconded. All in favour, please show. Right, Martin, are you going to speak?
Yeah, I'll make a couple of statements. I think listening to this for the last hour has been torment. The first thing is, I think it should be understood that when you decided you were going to put this event on, you were already creating a dangerous event with the numbers that you were anticipating or not anticipating on one of the most busy bank holiday weekends that the town is going to experience. And saying that we've got an insurance on this site for 1,000 or 2,000 people and an event at whatever capacity that does or doesn't need to be regulated, I think is negligent when it comes to the fact that you can't control the volume of people that are going to come through the Tower Gardens for an event of any description. So I think, in fairness to the committee, we were actually in the process of protecting the council by the involvement of the event coming to the magnitude that it has. We've had to put necessary things in place that we perhaps hadn't anticipated, and we only became aware of that just over 3 weeks ago, just before the Easter holidays. The most important thing here tonight is that there's 4 real areas of risk. The first one, I think, in fairness, is the fire risk assessment. It's cost money, it's established, it's here, it's waiting to be delivered, and once we release the cheque and pay for the fire risk assessment, it will be here at 9 o'clock in the morning. It could have been here at 1 o'clock this afternoon, or 3:15, or 4:30. It certainly could have been here for this evening, and it isn't. And that isn't our fault, because we've made something quite extraordinary happen to ensure that we can actually protect the event with the fire risk assessment. The second thing is Magna Vitae. Magna Vitae are supportive. When we acquired the stage because of the cancellation of the dog show, we had to have a main attraction. We had to have something that was significant enough and big enough to actually, call it an event. Magna Vitae stepped in with a stage, and I thought they'd done us a favour. until I found we got a £3,500 liability in the actual erection of the stage. It took us 2 weeks and some heavy talking with the director of Magna Vitae for them to say, we'll give you the stage and we'll actually pay for the construction, for the actual assembly and the disassembly and the management of the stage. Their insurance company alone will not allow any other contractor, whoever it was that I went to, and I went to world-leading engineers and contractors who Magna Vitae refused to accept as being competent or capable because their insurance certificate wouldn't allow it. And in fairness to Magna Vitae, they found £2,800 to put that stage up and take it away again and make it safe for the day. At the same time, just over a week ago, I met up with that contractor who's coming all the way from Derby to erect the stage. It would take him 5 hours to put it up. It would take him 4 hours to take it down. And it's all controlled by them. The risk assessment was stated at the time. We normally do a risk assessment a week before the event to take into consideration the risk of the wind, the weather and other factors. If we do a risk assessment now, we've got an awful lot more work to do. But he is going to get that risk assessment to me tomorrow. So this is a reliable source of contractor or provider or participant. Magna Vitae, we're using the Soap Festival stage. We've been out here several times and we're being told you've not produced the risk assessment or the insurance, therefore they're unreliable. I don't consider Magna Vitae to be unreliable, and for the money they're putting into it, I think that would be wrong to say so. So that's 2 areas of real risk. The next area of real risk is the fairground rights themselves. I think the provider and the contractor for the fairground rights, they operate in Hyde Park in London, they operate all over the world, they're a major contributor on the East Coast, in Skegness and Ingermells, and they do the Nottingham Fair. So they're, again, through work commitments, I love that, some water, I'm sorry, through work commitments, they can't provide the risk assessment until the end of this week. Now, even if it comes in next week, we're talking about a blue chip company. We're not talking about, Joe Bloggs and his fairground rights. We're talking about a blue chip company saying, we've seen all over the world, this is what we deliver. Why would you doubt us? They're credible. They're also responsible for the fourth sector of the real risk for this event, which is a giant TV screen. The money from these giant TV screens is massive. We've got a 20-foot, a 6 metre by 3 metre television screen coming in. It's got a standalone, it's got to be insured, it's got a risk assessment attached to it, it's got security arrangements all around it, it's there and it's protected. The same company has said that they will come on the day to look after the stage management. They'll bring their entertainment team and contribute to be part of the event, and they'll take responsibility for their insurances and their risk assessment for the event. The only thing we haven't done that isn't satisfactory is the actual event risk assessment that belongs to the town council. As a working group, that's either our responsibility or it isn't, but we need to work with the town council to be able to understand how to put that risk assessment together. And we are working with the town council, in fairness to the town clerk. The fact that the only documents that I think are showstoppers that are causing such a problem for the town clerk is Magna Vitae and the main contractor for the stage, for the fairgrounds, and the television. And the fire risk assessment, which is on its way. You're in control of it. I don't understand what the problems are. But I do know if we put any event in there on the Tower Gardens over a bank holiday weekend, there's going to be a volume of people that you can't regulate. We put regulation in place. We've got tickets, we've got all sorts of ways of controlling the volume of people at any one time on the gardens or in the gardens. And we have got a system in place to actually control that. So I do find it disingenuous that first of all you're trying to suggest that we're going to put on an unsafe event when you decided from the outset you would create an unsafe event. There cannot be an event without any money. The first thing we have to do was find some money to actually then decide what we could spend it on to make an event. It's taken up so much time in such a short space of time, and we've done it. We're not putting on an unsafe event. The insurances, the risk assessments, the contributors, the participants, everybody on the site on that day is covered. And the council's always got the right, at whatever time, when it's dissatisfied with the documentation, to say enough is enough. I've spoken to Magna Vitae director this week, And I've also spoken to Magna Vitae for the admin department to confirm what's happening with the event management form. They both seem fairly comfortable and confident that we'll have the documentation and the management in place well before the time. The director of Magna Vitae, who's lent us the stage, has no problems with what we're doing whatsoever. We have met with him and we've taken advice from him. So I don't know what else I can say, because I do understand the risk, and we're not going to be sitting here tonight at any time being challenged with wanting to put on an event that's deemed unsafe, because you've elected and accepted a committee of intelligent, educated, competent people on your behalf to go out there with your support to create an event. And now you're telling us, well, actually we don't think you have got that professionalism, that competence and that ability. And I find that quite insulting. So that's my statement. I know that we've covered it. And within 2 or 3 days, you'll have every piece of paper that you could wish for.
Would you let the man talk?
No, I'm not being called for your own. Are you not having that?
Okay, Martin.
I'm sorry I have such a dry mouth, but I'm astonished by what I've heard tonight. I'm disappointed.
Is there any questions from council?
Is he going to, if an accident occurs, and I or the council tell a lie, is he going to pick up the tab? That's my question.
Mr. Mayor, we've got a volunteer who's doing time free. I think that's a bit uncalled for there.
No, that's uncalled for what you called us as well. Incompetent
You didn't call it that, so anyway.
You called us incompetent.
Who is it?
Calm down.
I'm quite grateful for Martin's speech there. I'm quite listening to
You haven't changed, have you?
listening to what he's
Video
said.
two.
I actually feel quite comfortable that it's quite under control. By what I'm hearing, it's Magna Vitae's risk assessment or their company that they have to a record stage. That quite understandably, when they do it a week before due to weather conditions and things like that, that seems perfectly reasonable to me. The second one, TV, again, similar sort of situation. I'm just wondering what all the fuss is about.
Steve Kerr, please.
Right, thank you very much. Well, I come to that slightly. The fuss is that every box isn't ticked, every I isn't dotted, every T isn't crossed. And within health and safety, that's what we need to do. So my question to you, Martin, and can I just take this, and if this was being limited, I certainly would like to propose a vote of thanks to you and the team, because I know you spent hundreds of hours putting this together, all free of charge. No cost to this council, no cost to the people of this town. I think that's to be applauded that somebody with such fantastic community spirit have put this event in front of their own business. And their business has suffered over the past week. But if we give you that extra week, which is what I've proposed, are you confident that those boxes can be ticked, those T's crossed and those I's dotted?
100%.
Councillor Findlay.
Just echo what Councillor Steve said. Basically, it just sounds like these, from what you've said and what we've learned over the last few weeks, it's just those 4 items that seem to be holding the job up.
That's a little bit more than that.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Steve. What I'm saying is, generally, it looks like we're there, and then, like I say, there is some documents in there that probably, like I said, not written, not worth the paper they're written on, but at the end of the day, surely that's just a communication by one of the working groups for them to just say, do this.
All we have got to do, in other words, put their names down on those forms, needs to know this event management plan inside out, upside down, so they can quote it in their sleep. Because they're the people who will be responsible for making sure the happens as we said.
Surely, if what Martin has said, and I'd like to personally thank you and all for what you've done, it's fantastic, and everything. But surely LSAT will pick up on this. If all these documents are going to LSAT, surely they're going to pick up on it. If those
Just so no, sorry, misunderstood. I'm perfectly happy with what I've heard.
Yeah.
I'm perfectly happy with Mike says he's 100% confident that it'll happen. But I'm just trying to make the council aware that we are people named on the form, and we all need to know that fact inside out, upside down. If anything goes wrong, we won't be able to open an arm and think about it. We'll need to bang, put whatever actions we've agreed in place. That's just observation.
Yeah.
I think we just go to vote and I can go home and get some tea.
Just one last one. Sorry.
Councillor Kerr?
Thank you for that extra logic and reasoning with regards to why NB can't be the judge, jury and executioner all in the same. That sort of level of detail is what I feel would be lacking coming from the working group. But that sort of detail and explanation has been helpful, so thank you for sharing that and wishing to speak in what is obviously a very passionate few words. Let's just go to the vote.
Okay, right, we've all heard what's been said tonight. Now I've got proposals, Steve Kerr, to defer the meeting to make a decision on the coronation until next Wednesday. Seconded by Trevor Byrne. All in favour, please show. That's carried.
And next Wednesday's D-Day. Yes, D-Day.
Okay.